In today's episode, I will be talking to Josuel Rogers about the 4 elements of hip hop and how it relates to communication. Josuel has found an interesting way to activate the subconscious mind to enable true communication to take place. Listen in to hear the rest of our conversation. Before we begin our conversation, here is a quick shout out to the pathologically curious. Check out the Maverick Paradox magazine. It's a digital magazine written by Mavericks for business owners and professionals. You can find the magazine at themaverickparadox.com. The magazine's aim is to provoke maverick leadership everywhere. Welcome to the Maverick Paradox podcast, where we explore what it is to be a maverick and discover effective modes of leadership. I am Judith Germain, and my mission is to propel the maverick mindset into a world where character and integrity will ultimately have a higher premium than personality and bureaucracy. So thank you for joining me on this journey. If you would like to continue with me, then please subscribe to my podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, or one of the other popular podcast platforms. And today, our guest is Josuel Rogers. How are you doing?
Hey Judith, I'm doing fine.
Great.
How are you doing today?
I'm doing really well, ready to greet the day or seize the day.
Seize that, yes.
Carpe diem. Josuel, can you tell us a bit about you?
So, as you said, I'm Josuel, and what I do is I always say I try and get the maximum out of people and businesses. So I'm a coach. And how I do that is I give workshops wherein I combine the various coaching techniques with the 4 elements and the mindset of hip hop.
4 elements, that's interesting. What are those 4 elements?
So let's say the 4 elements of hip hop, as let's say said from back in the day, that's breaking, so breakdancing, graffiti, DJing, and MCing. So MCing is the rapping.
Mm-hmm. Okay, and I know that you work with hip hop to improve communication with other people. How does that work?
So what I do in my workshops, I use the hip hop as a tool. So one of the elements I would use, and to get let's say a team communicating with each other in a way that they would not expect. So for example, if I grab a graffiti element, then it's about colors, wherein the team will start drawing and coloring. And in that way, they'll be giving feedback to each other without knowing. So I would ask them, okay, you use this color to color in Judith's name, for example. Mm-hmm. Now, how come you chose that color? And then from there, they start thinking in a deeper layer, and they conversate with each other in a way they would not expect.
That's really unusual. What do your clients think when you say that this is what you're going to do with them?
They're usually quite surprised, and sometimes I just tell them it depends on what the client needs and what I think I'm going to use. I usually tell them, okay, I give them a broad idea of how the workshops will look like, and depending on which one I choose. So I first get an idea of, okay, what is it that they're struggling with, or where does it not really go as they want to, and then I go a little bit deeper into the team dynamics. And when I have that set, then I know what I'm going to use. If it's a half day, then it's usually, let's say, I would say 2 elements, so two different aspects. If it's 2 hours, then it'll be 1, and then I choose myself which one I'm going to use, which one I'm going to put in. So it would even be for the client sometimes a surprise. They know they're going to work with communication. They know they're going to tackle certain issues, but the how, they find out when it starts. So in that way, keep everyone sharp and on point, and not really easily expecting what they're going to do. So the idea is mostly that everyone has to step out of their comfort zone together. So then you're already since everyone is stepping out of their comfort zone together, they're already, let's say, on a level playing field, because nobody knows what's going to happen. Everyone is a little bit exciting, it's like, oh, what is this? What kind of workshop is this going to be? And then everyone gets to experience it fresh. And then afterwards, you're like, oh, this is a different way. I didn't expect for it to be like this. I've never had a workshop like this before. And then for everyone, it's nice and surprising. And then they get new energy out of it.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think I've ever heard of anything like that before. So it's quite interesting. So in the workshop, do you use all 4 elements?
I usually use one as a main thing, and it, like I said, it depends on the team. So if it's a workshop of an entire workday, then all 4 elements will come across. Right. So or let's say all 4 teams. So it's I use each element is a team within a workshop segment.
Okay, so I describe Mavericks as willfully independent people. Would you describe yourself as a Maverick?
Yes, I've in the sense of that I'm quite stubborn, and I really like to do things in my own way. I've always gotten from my parents, like we had a little chat earlier on, just be who you are and try and be as comfortable with that as possible. So that if you want to go left and the rest are going right, it's okay to go left. You don't have to go right with everyone.
No, and in fact, I would say if you're always going right, then there's something wrong. You're not thinking anymore.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. It's what I try and tell my kids is, there's no wrong question. You can always ask, what is the reason you're doing something? If you find it strange that everyone is doing it and it doesn't seem logical to you. And usually if someone cannot give you an answer on why you're doing something, then it means that they're just doing it because they learn how to do it and they don't even know why they're doing it. So then it's okay to choose your own way.
Yeah, well, I think one of the issues with Mavericks is that quite often, rather than put it in such an elegant way that you have put it, they often answer questions like, what are you doing that for? Which often makes the other person defensive, and then you can't really get to a solution.
Yeah, and like I'm a coach, so then I've learned over the years on how to ask it in a way that someone doesn't quickly go on the defense. But yeah, that's over the years I've developed that skill. So from when I was young, I would always ask, okay, why are we doing this? What is the reason?
So what's the point?
What's the point?
What's the point of this?
Yeah, well, why am I doing this? What's the point of this? As long as, and if the more you do that, the more you realize that a lot of people are just doing something because they've either learned how to do it that way, they've seen others doing it that way, and it seems to be the normal way to do things.
Yeah. Well, it's certainly not normal to do hip hop as a communication tool. So how did you get into that?
So when in my teens, I got into hip hop. And then I started around when I was 16, I started rapping myself. So I started writing rhymes. And at that time, this is, let's say, in 1996 approximately. And I grew up in the Caribbean where hip hop was not that big, it wasn't big worldwide, but at that time, but in the Caribbean, it was mostly reggae, dancehall, soca, what's really prevalent. So in that sense, hip hop was already something kind of in a niche.
They must have thought you was a maverick just for following that.
So basically, exactly as you say it, just for doing that, you're already, okay, that's a totally different music style. How come? And then to add to it, they still have, okay, you don't see CDs that much anymore.
Yeah.
But the sticker parental advisory, that was basically made for, let's say, hip hop albums.
Yeah.
That's when it, and then you come home with one of those. My parents were like, okay, this,
Go to your room.
yeah, go to my room. So the agreement I had with my parents was okay, it's okay if you listen to it, but we don't need to hear it. Let's put it like that.
Oh, they're quite mavericky themselves, then, aren't they?
Yes, definitely. My parents, they would just leave me do my own thing in my own way. They would just, at least, if they put borders on it, it's more, to keep you safe borders. And they let me do as much as possible as I wanted. So, for example, when I said, okay, I'm gonna start rapping. I wanna let's get into it, do some performances. Then they're like, okay, that's good. And then they would ask me, okay, what is the idea behind of it? So basically, what is your end goal? And at that time, you're 16. You're like, of course, I wanna tour the world. I want to be on TV.
I want to be on them, because MTV was big then, isn't it? Like, I want to be on MTV.
Yeah, I at MTV, it was more, at that time, BET was more a thing.
Oh yes.
Like I want to be big. I want to be on BET.
Yeah.
My parents like, okay, that's good. But what you'll also be doing is still focusing on school, so that let's say if it doesn't work, you have a fallback method. And that's it. And they were really also stimulating of everything that I did. So at a young age, I like to draw a lot. So they would also stimulate the drawing. So my mom would get me books on, let's say, drawing techniques.
Yeah.
Or she would ask me, okay, you like to draw? Do you want to go to a separate drawing school, or what do you want to do? And in that sense, they were always stimulating anything I had. So I've had also, let's say, there's really a really Christian element, and so I also developed questions on, okay, why is this and why is that? And instead of just saying it is as it is, my parents would let me just explore. If something didn't work for me, they would like, okay, what is the reason it doesn't work? What do you not find, let's say, that syncs with you? And they would really go in the conversation with me so that I can, explore myself. What is it that I find okay, and what is it that I don't find okay? Where are my questions? How are my questions? And if they could answer, they would answer questions. And if not, then they would just tell me, okay, well, then I think you would have to do some research yourself. So in that way, they also stimulated me to, keep on learning, and not per se in school, but in other ways. So when I was younger, we had, which I don't think many people still have, and the encyclopedia of, what is it, 26? No, not even, more than 26 books. You have A, B, C, and then some you have together. Others are double. So they would really stimulate me to go ahead, look in
My
it.
parents got me, again, like yours, they got me encyclopedia. I remember the Britannica encyclopedias, like a whole stack of them. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, now we just click Google. What you're actually saying is very similar to actual leadership, I think, in the sense that you're stimulating people's interests and you're letting them go as far as they can. So you're actually having a facilitated approach to something, as opposed to, because I was talking to someone the other day, and they were saying, it's just a friend of mine, and they were saying they hate telling people what to do, when they have to manage them. And she was going, how do I get people to do stuff without having to write them lots of lists? And I was saying, well, for me, every conversation you have is a coaching one. So you say, this is where I want us to be at this point.
Yeah.
How are you going to get there? And get them to take responsibilities for stuff. And it was quite interesting, because there was quite a lot of not rejection, quite a lot of resistance to letting the other people just go with it. You know what I mean? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, it's also letting go on your end.
Mm.
You know, it's and having it's double. It's letting go on your end and having confidence in the other person.
That's right. So I can kind of tell me about the break. So what would you? So hip hop in terms of the breaking element. How does that work?
So that's more the dancing. Let's say the breaking, the dancing aspect.
Yeah, I'm sort of thinking in terms of the communication element.
Yes. So we grab certain, let's say, certain moves where you can link it to, for example, problem solving, or if they do something together, then automatically you start to work on their teamwork. They start to work on their communication. How are we going to do this? How are we going to make this look good? How are we going to give it form together?
What about DJing?
So for the DJing, it's actually really I say that's the easiest one.
Really?
And I find, and that's I usually call it for, let's say, for new teams. That is the perfect one to use. So people don't know each other yet. You know, you can't really give feedback, but you really want to get to know each other. And then we go into so a DJ has a set in which he builds up the evening. So if you go out, you would notice at the beginning of the evening, it starts off a little bit slow. You know, it goes in a warm-up pace, and then let's say at the peak of the party, then you get all the hits. You know, the energy is really flowing, and then later on it goes back down to like a cool down. So everyone actually kind of already uses that in the music they listen to. If I would ask you, hey Judith, which song gives you really high energy? Then you would come with a song that, okay, this gives me really high energy. Maybe I use it when I'm in the gym, or when I'm really in the go mode. And everyone has those type of songs that they listen to. And then you could ask, okay, what do you listen to when you want to relax? And if you do that within a team, then they each hear different songs, and then you dive in a little bit deeper into, okay, what is it? And that way they start communicating with each other about the music they like. So you get the personal aspect already, so where they get to connect on a personal level. But you also see, okay, this is the reason they listen to this. This is what they need when they're in this mood. And then when you do that together, you start communicating in another way. And then I always have, let's say, a Maverick question. For example, okay, what is a song that either describes you or that you listen to that no one else listens to? And then you get a conversation going about that.
What about people that just really aren't into songs? How would that work? I mean, I'm one of those people that like songs and have no idea who sings them or what it's called.
Yeah. I think I haven't met anyone yet that does nothing with music.
Yeah.
You know, so they would be the Mavericks. If I would run into someone and be like, I do nothing with music at all, as in no classical, no.
Oh no, it's I'm very eclectic, so I like lots of different styles of music. But I'm rubbish at knowing. If I heard the song, I could go, oh, blah, 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 that's that. But I wouldn't know who sang it or what it was called. It was just like, the song that sounds a little bit like this one.
Yeah, but and even that brings about a nice conversation, because then everyone is going to be trying to figure out, oh, is it this song or is it this song?
Oh, I see.
And let's say within it, I also play the song that the person says. So, for example, it depends on not from everyone, because then I try to pick one and two. But then in your case, then I would be like, okay, now this is a good way. Together, let's see which one she means. and then you get a conversation around that. Someone is gonna maybe guess something totally different than the song you have in mind.
So, am I right in thinking then that with the work that you do using hip hop, it's like avoiding the cognitive mind in a way? You're going straight to subconscious and dealing with stuff there.
Yes, exactly. And that's also how I explain to customers. I do it in a way that you go as quick as possible to the subconscious mind.
Yeah, it's very powerful then. I can see how change can happen quite quickly.
Yeah, because then when you go quick to the subconscious mind, all the mental blocks are kind of already gone. The logicals of, okay, maybe I can't say this, or maybe I can't say that. A lot of stuff is already said without being said. People can interpret it in different type of ways, but I'll grab, for example, an example from a recent session I had, where I used the graffiti element, and then I have, of course, in my mind of, okay, we're going to look at the colors and let's see what they send in. And then someone colored in someone's name, but they colored it in a camouflage pattern. And then the conversation is, hey, okay, how come you color this in this way? So where one is thinking, okay, he's going to go into the colors, he actually says, well, I made it a camouflage pattern because sometimes you're here in this team, but sometimes you're busy with other work, so you're kind of invisible but also visible at times. So you get totally different conversations than you would actually expect, pure because you're going straight into the subconscious. Someone is just coloring and he's like, wait a minute, I want it to be like this, and then he also gets an idea of, yeah, this is how I see the guy.
I like that. I've got a model. Sometimes if you're going to do like coaching, I find that what lies behind the thing is quite painful, and that particular individual cannot really talk about it at that time. So I do have there's a method that I use that bypasses all of that and goes subconscious. Because it's story based, so it's like, tell me a story when this happened, tell me a story when this, and then it's through the stories that you actually start to bring up the issue that needs to be, the deep seated thing that's behind it. So so one of the so what I use it mostly is looking for the talent. So what's the core talent of that individual? What is it is the one thing that they always do everywhere, which is the pathway to that success, which they don't know. Which is quite often they don't know. And then by looking through the stories of the directed stories, you can see what it is that's underneath it. So for me, mine is seeing truth, and I'm very hyper insightful, so I can really see things very, very quickly. And then once I discovered that that's what I do, it suddenly opened up everything. So actually, this is quite a cool skill that I can apply in any kind of function, because I'm very good at getting to the insightful moment. Connections. But then again, that I don't think that would have come through a cognitive run through. Do you know what I mean? I think what it could have done, but it would have taken a long time. Whereas this takes less than an hour.
It would have taken longer. Then you have to go really deep down. And usually when someone is telling something what happens, when you have the skill to properly analyze it and ask, let's say, the right questions. So usually people always ask, what does a coach do, or why would I need a coach? A coach asks you the right questions so that it triggers you to think on something, that you think deeper into the story. So in your case, someone can be sharing their story, and then you go like, okay, but just a quick question here that would make them start to think on the story deeper, like, okay, this is the reason why I do this in certain ways, or why I see this like this. And then everything gets loose, and then you get to the real pain.
That's right. I'm just looking at your website here, and I was looking at the words that you've bolded, And I was just thinking about what does that mean to me, and for me, it's like what you're saying to me. It's not, you haven't specifically said it, but what I'm reading from it is that to have the perfect communication, you need to have the right words delivered with the right energy, performed with confidence that evokes a feeling.
Yeah. So that's for. So I'm thinking how to which all the words I've bolded, but usually but this like this what I'm thinking, but I know it's focused on, let's say, the energy that you bring across, also the words that you use, the way that you say things. That also says a lot about you, or how you see something. I mean, it's someone can say, I find this really difficult, and someone else would say, I don't find this all that easy.
Yes.
It's actually, in core, it's kind of the same thing, but where one sees it as really an issue, the other one sees it more as, okay, I haven't found a workaround for this yet.
Yeah, it's very interesting. I had a conversation many years ago with this guy, and he brought his business partner, and the business partner hadn't said anything for the whole meeting. And like right at the end, they looked at me because I turned out that they were an NLP master practitioner.
Yeah.
And they said, "Do you know you don't use any toxic words at all?" I was like, "Oh, okay." And so everything that you say is expressed in the way that has the most positive outcome. Not like I'm like, Pollyanna, but it's, as you said, it's not like, oh, that's so difficult to do. It's like, this is something I can't wait to jump over.
Yep. Yes.
And it's like, oh, and she was sort of saying there's no like indecision. So for example, I don't use words like I'll try to do that, because I've recognised over the years, if I try, it's really my subconscious saying, I'm not doing it. I'm just being polite.
Yeah.
And I go to myself, that's not. So if I hear myself, oh yeah, I'll try to do that, I tend to suddenly stop and really consider it, and then say, yes, I'll do that, or you know what, I'm just not going to do that.
And it's funny that you said that the person who was sitting there was an NLP master practitioner.
Yeah.
Because usually the let's say the theory and the techniques that I use behind of it is also NLP.
Yeah, I did wonder.
So it's also NLP, because I also did it. I did the practitioner because I wanted to see. For me, it was that time I switched professions. So I did financial controlling and analysis, and then afterwards I got into a reorganization. I was like, okay, but what is it that I actually want to do? And then I said, okay, I want to go into the coaching. And then I did the NLP course for me, pure to see, okay, do I already have the skills? What am I missing? And while doing it, I realized, like, hey, a lot of these things, I'm already busy with it from a subconscious point. But then you get it into the consciousness of, okay, why is it that I do it in this way? How come it is that I'm always looking for a way to get something done? And then I would also, let's say, word it in a way that I'm thinking on getting something done. And NLP helps you actually see your own patterns and your own thought ways and how you say it or act upon it, and also from others. Then you start you get the aha moments when you've done it. Afterwards, you really see, like, okay, this, I understand the theory behind of it, but then you also see it. So for example, like they said, you don't use any toxic words because you're just looking into possibilities. That's why you're a maverick. Yeah, that's what it's been about. Looking into, okay, how can I get this done? Okay, I don't see a solution at the moment, but there has to be a solution somewhere. So I will find it.
Yeah, I think it's. I don't know if you're into Star Trek, but I am. And way back in when William Shatner was Kirk, Something had happened, and he turned around and he said, "But I don't believe in the no-win scenario." And that's pretty much. I was like, "Yeah, I don't believe in that either." There is always a solution. I just haven't found it yet. There is a solution to it.
Exactly. There's a solution. You just haven't found it yet.
I know, and I think that opens you up to a lot of possibilities. And I think that's one of the things that Mavericks tend to do. We're interested to know how. So you're asked to solve a problem, and you're interested to know, we're actually thinking about it. You don't really ask what people have tried before, because that's not that interesting. It's more about what's driven this problem to occur in the first place, and what was the expected outcome, and why didn't that expected outcome come? The question is, whereas I'm thinking about it now, because conformists tend to say, well, what did you try before? Which I think is the wrong starting point. Whereas I think Mavericks start with, well, what's the problem? Why is it a problem? And if it happens like this, why do you care? Oh, you care because this is the problem. Okay, so it's not this problem. The real problem is this problem. Okay, let's resolve this problem.
Yep.
Because a lot of people don't really come with the right problem. They don't really state the problem. Because I think I think a lot of conformists don't go deep enough into the scenario. Because sometimes something happens, but the real problem is they get in trouble for it. If they won't get in trouble for it, they wouldn't actually care that this thing's happening. So the real issue is they're now in trouble, not that the thing's happened.
Exactly. That's usually it. Let's say on a whole, society kind of punishes you for making mistakes.
Yes, true.
And that isn't usually the problem why someone won't say something or won't really ask for help, because slowly over the years, it starts, let's say, almost at school. You're punished for doing stuff wrong, and later on, that is kind of ingrained into you that, okay, oh man, I did something wrong, I'm going to be punished. While actually, when you fail at something or it doesn't work on how you expected it to go, that is actually when the real learning starts.
Yeah.
Then you can really look into something, be like, okay, this didn't work. How come it didn't work? What did I expect? Where did it go wrong, or where did it kind of veered off? You can really, if you start taking your time and looking into that, to have greater leaps in reaching success than when you're looking at it like, oh man, I messed up on this again. No, it's not that you messed up. You tried something that didn't work. Let's try something else. And in a lot of cases, something that didn't work with, let's say, the challenge A that you had is actually a solution that you could use in challenge B that would come in the future.
That happens a lot with medicine, doesn't it? Where they try to fix something and then go, oh, this will help alleviate Alzheimer's. It's that fascination where they say that every poison has its antidote already there in nature. You just don't know which two elements to put together to make it happen.
And like in those type of fields, there are no mistakes. You try something, it didn't work. Okay, we're gonna try something else. That's almost let's say the ultimate field for Mavericks. You just get to go, you try stuff. It doesn't work. Okay, let's try something else. That doesn't work. Oh, let's try something else. Let's try something else until you get to the solution that you wanted. And on the way there, you gain all types of new insights. Oh, but this doesn't work here, but it does work here. This could be work. You can almost take it out and apply it somewhere else.
Yeah, and I think that's the same with people, isn't it? Where you be having a conversation, you get annoyed, and I'm like, I wasn't expecting that to happen. Why was that? And I must admit, when I was younger, I learned a lot about context and language choices and wondering, because people would react in a way that I wasn't anticipating and I couldn't get it. And I was like,
Yeah.
what am I doing to make them react like that when I'm trying to do, and I've said it before on this podcast, it's like the word relevant and irrelevant. I used to say, someone tells me something like that, I used to say, that's irrelevant. And then people would get really upset and I'd be like, I don't understand. And then I realised what it was that when I said that's irrelevant, they heard you are irrelevant.
Yeah.
So when I started to say, I'm not sure that's relevant, it never caused any defensive gestures.
Trips. Yeah.
And it was just like, because as a maverick, you're like, that's just silly because it's just a word. It's the same, means the same thing.
Yeah. In your mind, it's just a word. You know, why are you taking it so personal? But
yeah, because I mean, my view would be, if I think you're irrelevant, I would tell you are irrelevant. You wouldn't be guessing. Yeah. I'd be saying you are irrelevant. But if I'm not saying that, it's not what I mean. Do you see what I mean?
Yeah, and it's because, let's say, in some aspects, you know, you can take things real, as in literally like how the sentence is.
Yeah.
But there are a lot of people that don't communicate in a literal way.
Yes.
And over the years, by someone else, they start to attach meanings to it within their own, let's say, in their own world, own minds. They have attached a meaning to something, while it's not per se the meaning that the other person is trying to communicate. You know, and they don't voice their question. If someone, let's say, if you would say, okay, well, that is irrelevant, and the person would then just ask a question, okay, Judith, how come you say irrelevant? You know, without attaching an emotion to it immediately, then the conversation is different. But when they have already attached an emotion to the word irrelevant, just like you said, they can interpret this, okay, I am irrelevant. Maybe because through their lifetime,
that's what they've heard. Yeah,
that's all they've heard. You know, every time the word irrelevant is used, it's really attached to them as a character, as their character, or as a person, and that they get to feel as if they are irrelevant. While it's just possibly the argument, you know, that you're bringing into the current conversation is irrelevant. You know, that's and your solution to it, what is also good, like how you solved it, is that because you attach it to yourself, you know, I don't think that's relevant. They're already like, oh, okay, this is not an attack on me. This is what she thinks. You know, they can place it on you instead of and putting it as an attack on their character, on their person.
Yeah, it's definitely a strange one, isn't it? On how people read conversations, and I think probably, especially these days, there's little reflection on the reaction to things. You know, so like if you write something online and somebody gets very upset, it seems to me that the person who's written it doesn't reflect and say, what would the other person be thinking that would make them react in this way? It becomes then an argument rather than, oh, they might think I meant this when in fact I meant that. So let me reiterate, let me put the context around it. It's more like, rah, 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 and then it's lost, and it's just like, oh. And then when you're just watching it, you'll go, oh, I think they meant that. But then by that point, you can't, you know, the conversation's then moved on, and like, you know, you've got everybody involved, and it can't be dealt with.
And the also the thing is with, like, let's say conversations on internet, a lot of it's purely written, and tonality is also very important. I mean, for someone who likes to use sarcasm, when they type it out in their mind, they're typing it in a sarcastic tone. But the one who's reading it cannot always interpret the sarcasm in it because they don't hear the person saying it.
Or they might
They're
not know
just
the person.
and they might on the internet, for example, on forums. Usually, you know zero people on, let's say, on random forums. You have no idea who's behind the words, so you don't know if that person is a sarcastic person unless you've had a lots of conversations, or you've had an actual conversation like this, where you hear the person talk, and then you can hear like, oh, okay, now he likes to use sarcasm. Oh, he's not really a sarcasm type of guy. That is lost when it's only communication with words.
Yes, because they don't see you raising an eyebrow or smirking or the other non-verbal gestures that you would use to show that you don't really mean it or something like that.
Exactly, and also, like I said, the tonality behind words is very important, in conversations. And you can't, right now, there's no way that you can do that in purely written, or you would have to type behind of it sarcasm, just to make it clear.
Yeah, that sounds good. So to sum up then, what advice would you give to listeners then on using hip hop as a better tool for communication?
What advice would I give? That is a good one. Yeah. Using it as a way to communicate. Yes, that's a good one. I would say try to communicate with the energy that you have, and also to dare to go against the grain.
Oh, I like that. Dare to go against the grain.
Yes, that's what I would say to it. So in the way you communicate, it's be brave enough to go left when everyone else is going right, and also try, and if you think that going left might be a better solution, try and tell those that are going right what the reason is that you're going left, so that they can maybe learn from it or understand, hey, going left might just be a good idea.
Sounds perfect. Thank you so much for coming on. Would you come again and talk about something else?
Definitely. I'd like to thank you for having me on.
No, it's been a fantastic conversation. I've really enjoyed it. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you once again for tuning into the Maverick Paradox podcast. I hope you have enjoyed listening to my conversation with Josuel as much as I enjoyed having it. If you are pathologically curious and would love to find out more about the Maverick Paradox, then please subscribe to this podcast on one of the popular podcast platforms. Alternatively, you could explore our resources on Mavericks at maverickparadox.com or read the Maverick Paradox magazine. We publish frequently each week. If you subscribe, you will get our monthly newsletter. And let's not forget my book, The Maverick Paradox, The Secret Power Behind Successful Leaders. For those that love a good discussion, you could apply to join our exclusive Facebook group. And finally, if you would like to work with us or just interested in finding out more about the Maverick at work, check out our website maverickparadox.co.uk.